Yeah, I mean, if you chart it, it will grow, and that's true for shoot. I mean, we do a lot of shooting competitions as well. We're charting that. We're seeing who's leading our program in different categories.
Welcome to the Jamodi Podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it. Today we're joined by the assistant boys basketball coach at Allen High School, Chris Blakeley. Coach Blakeley had a solid career at Abilene Christian University. Right out of college, he was the player development assistant coach for the Texas Legends. He then joined the staff at UNT as a graduate assistant and moved up to the director of scouting in 2019. Coach Blakeley spent 3 years as his assistant coach at Grapevine High School and is entering his first year at Allen High School. This past summer, he was the defensive coordinator for the Bleed Green team in the basketball tournament. They came just short of winning the $1 million prize. Before we hear from Coach, take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media at Jamodi Podcast.
What's up, Coach?
What's up, man? Oh, yeah. How are you?
Doing great. Happy Friday.
That's right. Well, you got the Allen basketball T-shirt on, so I guess first of all, just congratulate you on that move, and that's big time, man.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I got to go out there Monday of this week and meet the team, and I've been up there a little bit amount this week, and just being able to interact with them, I can already feel the energy. It's very exciting, and I'm really excited to be there.
Now, what's your connection with Coach Sip up there?
Yeah, I've known Coach Sip for probably 5 or 6 years now. He used to come up to UNT practices all the time when he was at Sulphur Springs, and just got to interact with him then, and definitely thought highly of him for a long time, even from afar, but just have had lots of interactions with him in gyms over the last few years. And yeah, just somebody that I've really respected. I think he's one of the best coaches in Dallas-Fort Worth and in Texas. Does a really, really good job. So I'm happy to work with him. I think we're very similar in a lot of ways.
No doubt. Yeah. No doubt he's special. I was at the Colony Gym a few years ago, right after COVID, and Coach Ryan was having just kind of a round table get together, and he was there. And it was the first time I really had any interaction with him. And I remember sitting thinking, this guy's legit. Like this is somebody to learn from. And so I was excited to have him on, but excited to have you on as well. And this is even before the move, because I'm at Grapevine Faith Christian School. You were at Grapevine High School, but our schools really, even though right down the road, less than 10 minutes, there's almost no interaction. And that's okay, because the levels are very different. But as far as coaches go, I really did want to build this relationship. Was able to have, Coach Markley at Southlake on, and it's just nice because even though private school, public school, still want to have good relationships with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm pumped. I've been listening for a while now to the pod, and I'm a big fan. So I listen to Coach Markley's, I listen to Coach Sips, and a lot of friends that you've interviewed that I know, but also people that I played for, like Coach Tanner at ACU, and so it's a great podcast. I'm happy to be on it, and I'm also happy to be just connecting with you. Like you said, we've only talked a few times in gyms and kind of just starting to get to know each other, but
now you're leaving me. I mean,
right.
You're leaving me over here in Grapevine. I mean,
we didn't even get a chance to go to Mainline Coffee, on Main Street or I'm a big coffee person, so I've got a couple. I got a cup right here with me right now. But yeah, we didn't get a chance to explore Grapevine together.
What's your cup of coffee? What's your favorite kind to go? What do you do?
I'm trying to work on a coffee sponsorship out here in Allen. I was working with what's the new coffee shop that popped up in Grapevine, Dutch Bros, which is kind of tailored to the younger generation. But my go-to is just some espresso. When I went to Italy with UNT, I fell in love with just the espresso. So that's what I drink a lot of. But and I went to Portland on my honeymoon.
They're not a sponsor, but Black Rifle Company.
Ooh, yeah, that's good.
Black Rifle Coffee Company. They have one right down 26. That's where I drive by Grapevine High School every day to get here. And I like their coffee so much that I went and got the pods for it. But today I'm kind of breaking a little. I'm going Jocko Goes, which if I was gonna get a sponsor from either of them, it would be Jocko Go, because this is probably one of the best. Like, there's only 4 ingredients on the back, as opposed to C4s that have the paragraph. You have no clue. But I don't know. I think every coach for the most part has a go-to caffeine drip of some kind. And yeah.
No doubt. Yeah, big fan. Became a snob when I went to Portland for our honeymoon with my wife, and that was kind of the start of my coffee journey. But we're here to talk about basketball, and
man, it's gonna go a bunch of directions. Don't limit us at all. But
do a separate coffee podcast sometime.
Love that. So really excited to ask you some of these questions because of the different experiences that you've had, coaching in college, coaching at Grapevine High School, but now going to be an assistant at Allen, which is, I think, is it still the biggest high school in Texas, population-wise? Yeah, the biggest. How many total there?
Pushing 7,000 is what I last looked at in terms of enrollment. They got the freshman center, but I was trying to look up. It might be the biggest public school in the United States. There's only a few others that are up there in that area, so it's massive.
Let's just say there's half of them are boys, right? You think you can find 5 to 10 that can hoop out of 3,500 boys?
That is the most common question, and I guess joke and poking fun at us that we're gonna get. Coach Tip says that he gets it a lot, so I think we can find 5. We've got a really talented team. I'm excited to work with them. I think we got a legit chance to compete for a state championship this year. So I think we found 5. We found 10, 15. We found a good amount of guys.
No doubt. So building that culture is really important with the teams that you've been a part of. What's one of your favorite culture building activities that you've seen?
Yeah, Coach Sip and I were actually talking about this yesterday. And there's a lot of different things people do. People go on retreats and things like that. But I would say the number one thing that I've done anywhere I've been that just was the most impactful, most memorable was at UNT. This was, I think, 2017, 18. Or no, it was our second season. We did a Tough Mudder race, which if listeners aren't familiar with what that is, you can look it up. But you get really, really muddy and you go through a lot of obstacles together. We did this in September, and it was kind of in conjunction with our team retreat. That whole weekend was really just memorable. And but the Tough Mudder in and of itself, you're going through something really difficult together, and you're, like I said, overcoming a lot of obstacles, literally. And it's this long race where you do it together as a team. And the guys that were on that team wore these orange finisher headbands throughout the year during practice. They wore the T-shirt. It was something that we talked about a lot. Hey, when we went through that, and it's competing. It was fun. You get photos afterwards and things like that. And so it was awesome. And then the retreat, which I know a lot of people do retreats, like I said, but just the ability to be with guys, around a campfire, eating together, doing the videos with their families and bringing kind of just a deeper connection with the team. It was really well thought out and structured, and Coach Mack and the staff at UT did a good job there, but that was awesome.
I love that idea. Like you said, I mean, a lot of people do the retreats, and culture isn't just one activity. I mean, culture is every day. But there are specific things we can do to enhance it, to make it a little bit deeper. And I like what you said, to build connections with our players and help them to understand each other's stories. But as a former Tough Mudder participant, I've done 2 in my time. I don't know if there's any more in my future, just because, I mean, I throw my back out. I was pulling out the bleachers here one day and I jerked really hard and I was out for it. So I don't know if I'll do it, but that is hard. Sure. Did you get 100% participation from your players?
We did, players and staff. The staff hung back at the back a little bit. Coach Ream was back there, but the staff was in really good shape, so they actually they were competing and doing it. But I'm with you on that. It was it was some serious. There was like some live wires we had to go
Oh
through, and
yeah, that shock
uh,
is no joke either.
yeah, it ain't the safest race, but I think that's what made it kind of fun. But I'm with you on that. I don't know if I can do that. I can do it now while I'm young.
I don't know, coach. Is it the difference? Is that the difference between public and private school? I think I would, I just, if I told them, if they didn't know anything about mutter and I said, hey, we're going to climb some walls and,
Hmm.
and carry some heavy stuff and then go under barbed wire, jump over fire, and then also possibly get electric shock. All of a sudden I would get these, oh, hey, we're out of town, or I had ACT prep planned for that day. Like that's because those are the type of excuses. We're going to go to our lake house. And I don't know. I would love to do something like that, but then you're still, how old are you now?
I'm 28. I'm 28
Oh,
right now. So
coach, like you're so
yeah,
far away from not being able to do these things.
I
So
got some time. I got some time.
I was watching the NBA finals are going on right now. And so, you got Shaq and Barkley and the Jet talking and stuff. And Shaq was getting so bent out of shape because a guy was inside the 3-point line, took a few dribbles back to get behind the 3-point line to shoot. And I
Hmm.
mean, it's just so analytics driven now the game is, but it's like a lot of coaches I've been able to talk to. I mean, it can't drive everything and every decision, but it's not smart just to ignore it. So, what
Yeah.
role do analytics play with how you like to coach?
Yeah. Gosh, like it, kind of like culture analytics it's crazy that it's becoming a buzzword, but I don't even determine it as a buzzword. More so, just something that's being talked about a lot that maybe isn't fully understood, but it's definitely more understood now than it has been. Um, I got into it. I was the director of scouting analytics at North Texas. There weren't that many people in college at the time that had, I mean, titles are titles, but had it, that word in their title. But a lot of NBA teams had full staffs of, data analysts and quantitative researchers. And so I've always liked counting things as a kid. My nickname was the 50-pound sports ticker growing up because I just spit out facts and stats, and I would read the Dallas Morning News sports page and would read every single box score from every sport, and I was just really into that
Nice.
growing up. And then when I met a guy named Logan Doms, who's a really good friend of mine, he's a special assistant now at Chattanooga. He came to work at UNT for a couple months with me. He's probably one of the best. He works for the Golden State Warriors analytics department, and he introduced me to a book called Basketball on Paper by Dean Oliver, who it was written in 2002, and I've read it cover to cover in one night, and explains the four factors, explains kind of free basketball with baseball and Moneyball with the Oakland Athletics and sabermetrics, and so I really got into it after reading that book. And then, other influencers like Ken Pomeroy, who has the website kenpom.com. That's like the Bible for college basketball coaches.
Yeah.
And Jordan Sperber, who's another guy with Hoop Vision that I connected with that I really admired. And so all these people, on top of a professor at North Texas, Michael Montecchino, that I used to meet with, he was an analytics professor. I got into it, and the bottom line is that it's analysis. Like you're analyzing your team, you're analyzing opponents, you're analyzing things like scheduling and how to schedule better to help your team. So you're just doing that. You're analyzing it so that you can make better decisions, and you're using numbers to do that. And so there's just a lot of different aspects to it, I guess. But internally, we use it a lot, and we will use it a lot at Allen. Coach Cipolletta does a really good job with his culture chart that I think he talked about on the podcast.
Yep.
Like every practice, every game, like they're charting different things that maybe you wouldn't normally look at, or the casual fan may not see, but interactions with teammates. How are you celebrating your teammates' success? Things of that nature that we track and we think are really important to not just playing on the floor, but impacting winning ultimately. And so internally, we look at a lot of things. I wish I probably could talk about this for a long time because I'm really into it. But the app Easy Stat I just kind of came across for high school, at least, which may be more practical for any high school coaches listening. Easy Stats app, it's like $3.99 or something for the year, and you can use it as a coach on the bench or assistant or a student. You can teach a student assistant how to use it. And, we use it during the season for live stats
Yeah.
because coaches in high school, it's a huge inefficiency right now. Most places don't have live stats. We don't have like in college where you print a box score and you can look.
Yeah, you got to wait. You got to wait 6 hours or so for huddle, which is great. But even then, I mean, if you're high enough up and the numbers bleed, you're going to get some crossover even with huddle where, I found that I just go back and stat it again myself, which use huddle more for the clipping aspect, not really the stats. But I like the idea because you're right on the money. I'd love to know more in the moment instead of just resulting or thinking or just going back off of my memory, which isn't good.
No, yeah, none of us want to go off hunches, even though we make decisions ultimately a lot of times from our gut and like our instincts, and that's part of being a coach. But it's helpful to have that data, and we use that easy stats, and we'll use it in the off season too, like TABC and summer leagues and fall leagues and GASOs, just because if you keep using it throughout the summer and fall, then by the time you get to the season, you've got like 18, 20 games worth of data that you can use to make decisions about lineups. And practice stats, of course, are very helpful as well. But I mean, if you chart it, it will grow. And that's true for shoot. I mean, we do a lot of shooting competitions as well. We're charting that. We're seeing who's leading our program in different categories. So big believer in that. And, shout out to Cerebro Sports and different companies out there that are really trying to kind of enter the high school and grassroots market right now, because there ain't much out there right now doing that. And I would love to see high school basketball in Texas, which I hope I'm not bleeding into that other question about rule changes, but I'd love to see there be some type of movement towards accurate data and accurate stats and making it more visible, because every coach hides their stats on MaxPrep these days, or doesn't put it anywhere. So it helps you make decisions from a scouting standpoint. You want to know if someone's a 40% 3-point shooter or a 28 3-point shooter. That's a big difference in the way you guard them. And so I think having that information is really helpful. And sometimes when you have to send everything to Huddle Assist and kind of hope that people send you film, it's challenging as a coach when that's important to you. So hopefully over time it'll change.
One question for you. You mentioned how analytics can help you with scheduling. What do you mean by that?
Oh, yeah, man. So quick little story. When we were at UNT, our second year, we started the year, we had the best record in school history, starting 18-1, I believe. And but we didn't play that strong of a schedule. We're beating some teams that, in Ken Palm or whatever, the net rating, it wasn't super strong. And so we felt great. And then we ended up actually kind of falling off towards the end of the year in our conference. We had some injuries and things like that too. But, after that year, Coach McCaslin and Coach Hodge, we kind of got together as a staff, and we totally shifted our philosophy on what our schedule was going to be the next year. And we utilized a lot of analytics to make those decisions about who we were going to play the next year. We wanted to strengthen our schedule. And so, we used Kevin Palga's tool, KPI indicator, which is basically a spreadsheet that kind of you can input some information to help build your schedule. In college, it's very important because you're trying to build your resume to get to the NCAA tournament. And a good friend of mine that I worked with, Andy Schmidt, works at a company called HD Intelligence, or HDI, with a guy named Colton Houston. And they actually do a lot of scheduling analytics for programs, for college programs, as a kind of a consultant. And ultimately that's what you're looking at. You're looking at everything from, how much is this team bringing back? What kind of, what experience do they have? What was their record last year? Like, are they a quad 1, quad 2? And so in high school, not a lot of people are doing that. I don't think. And MaxPreps has the algorithms in place to build rankings.
Yeah.
Right. And so, like what team is ranked out of 352 or whatever in 5A. And you can also use Huddle, of course, to look at offensive rebound rate and free throw, all the 4 factors as well. But your original question was, I'm getting off topic.
No, you're good. It's on topic. Just how those analytics can influence your scheduling. Because my thought was, I think one, you got to know your clientele. There is this idea, like Dan Lee, over at John Paul said, schedule hard. like schedule
Yeah.
hard, leading up to district, and then so you're prepared. Record doesn't matter, and I definitely agree with that. Though that as far as the wins and losses, everybody starts at 0 once district comes, but there also is an idea of confidence, psyche, belief. Like my first year at Faith, we had an older team. We did have a tough schedule. They were about 500 going into district, but every game those guys believed that even if we lost, we were getting better. Kept the same schedule, had a completely different team, younger, not a lot of full-time, year-round basketball players. Started off 0-9. Very competitive, lost double overtime in a couple of those games. Like, I knew that this was making us better, but I'm telling you, over the course of the year, I never felt like they truly believed that they were good, could win. There's this, so I think there's the idea of like, know who your clientele is and find that balance between as competitive as possible. But like, yes, you learn a lot from losing. You learn a lot from winning too. And you want to have that kind of culture within your program, a winning culture. But I've been on the fence with like getting more games, taking games back and practicing more. Like right now, this next season, I'm looking at 6 tournaments where we're taking our total, because I think this team I have coming up, they need more games. They have less experience. Practice will help, obviously, but they just need to go out and compete as a unit a lot before district play starts. Where do you kind of line up on that? You got your 3-22 in Texas, and then you can take 2 off and substitute a tournament, but you end up getting 2 more games from that. Where are you?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and you made some really good points too. Like, for me, like you said, it depends on your team. And, at Allen, where we're headed, we're playing in some of the best tournaments and showcases, I think, in the United States. And it's going to challenge us. It's exciting because you're going against really good teams, really good coaches. And the players are on this, stage, or this really, really competitive environment that it does prepare you for district. And I guess I didn't realize I didn't finish that story about North Texas, but we started 3-6, I believe, that next year, and we scheduled really tough. And we ended up winning the league that year. And so it does depend on, getting that buy-in from your team and getting that belief like, hey, we might lose a couple early guys, but here's why we're doing this, or here's why we're playing these teams. Or and it's not easy, because especially if you want, you're going to hear things from outsiders, you're going to hear things from fans, parents, like when you're losing. Nobody wants to lose, but people want to be challenged. And the way that kids these days, like, I almost said kids these days. Wow. Kids these days.
People about 10 years younger than yourself. Yeah.
People not that much younger than me.
You're getting there, man. You're starting to get older when you say kids these days. Like you said it.
Yikes. I just said kids these days. Yeah. So they're playing a lot. They're playing against really good competition in the summer as well. And so, but it wasn't always like that. And at Grapevine, my first year, we didn't have that many guys. Like you said, you've had teams where you didn't have that many guys playing competitively over the summer, with really high level club teams, or with a club team at all. And so, kind of as you build it, and as we built it at Grapevine, and then now going to Allen, where like all these dudes play like really high level basketball over the summer, and it's just like, shoot, these dudes. And so a lot of that has to go into scheduling too. Like you said, ultimately you want to play your best basketball at the end of the year. You want to be healthy, and whatever you can do to challenge your team and be able to teach lessons through winning and losing. That's what we do.
Yeah, and it is all about calculated risk. Like what I mean, because the odds of injury in practice, that it's there. So you could think, okay, well, I want to be fresh, so let's play less games. Well, it could still happen in practice, or I want to get us more experience. Well, then you're putting them in situations for that to happen as well. So it's almost like you got to take that out of the equation. But I do agree with you, that fresh idea. Does it help your team? And again, it does all come down to, as a coach, knowing the personnel that you have and what they need. And even though like we'll be an older team in age, it's not, they don't have as much skin in the game as far as varsity experience. So And my idea, especially, and it helps too when your style of play is simple, we can install it early on, and then through tournaments, almost like a select ball approach, through tournaments, get better, get good film, learn good lessons, come back that following Monday and iron out through some things over the next couple days. I don't, but I don't think there is a right or wrong way or a set pattern that you have to stick by. And maybe that's the art of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It ain't perfect. Never going to be perfect, but because there's timing of things that just sometimes humans don't plan for, and we got to adjust when it happens.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Ballogy. Manage and measure your players' skill development and increase accountability year-round utilizing the Ballogy app. Boost inter-squad competition with drills backed by the National High School Basketball Coaches Association, including a 40-shot Ballogy skills assessment. Please visit ballogy.com/teams for information on how you can provide this resource for your team. But you mentioned a little bit about individual skill development, at Grapevine, and how much shooting you guys did. And I know from having good talks with Coach Sip at Allen that it's a big piece of their pie too. How does individual skill development work into your daily practice?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm not, I've been there for like 3 practices already, but I've watched a ton of film, and Coach Sip gave me his, huddle login so I could watch a bunch of practices and games. And it's very clear and evident that he's one of the best I've ever been around in terms of development on court. And I've been around some really, really good teachers of the game, and he's extremely organized, and it's a huge part of what we do. And it's clear that the players at Allen these last 2 years, and then when he was at Sulphur, got better. Every year they got better. And he's graduated an insane amount of people that gone on to play in college. But just everyone on the team can dribble, pass, and shoot. And it's what they do. It's part of, a lot of people call it vitamins or whatever, but it's something we do every day, something we take every day, like a vitamin. And, but, as far as, and I'm still learning, like he's got a lot of terminology, and I'm trying to get up to speed as quickly as I can so that I can help communicate that to the guys. But just a desire to be on the court and get better. I learned when I was in the G League and with the Legends, I spent a lot of time on the court with those guys because they were professionals, and it's what they did. They didn't go to class. They didn't, have much to do other than hoop. And so we'd wake up and I'd pick up guys like Ben Gordon and Pierre Jackson and Quincy Acey, some Baylor guys there for you that I got to work with, and just saw their daily habits. And, the coaches that were there with the Legends, Bob McKinnon was just an unbelievable developer of skill, and had the most call-ups in G League history one year with 7 guys. And so, and all of that had to do with the skill development on the court, and incorporating film as well. And so I learned a lot from those guys. Phil Beckner is Damian Lillard's trainer, and he came out to UNT for a week to train some guys, and got to experience that. And so, and DFW has unbelievable trainers as well, with guys like Tyler Relf and Tim Martin and Terrell Harris and so many others. And I would say it's harder in high school to balance, just because most high level guys, or a lot of high school players in general, have one or more skills trainers that they're seeing regularly outside of you. And so having that relationship with them, making sure you know who those guys are and who your players are working with, and making sure that they're getting proper development outside of here, because you can open the gym every day and make sure the guys are in there, but at the end of the day, you're limited on time, you're limited on staff and what you can do with guys. And so a lot of it you are banking on and really building those bridges and relationships with AU coaches, with skills trainers, so that in high school your players can be complete players, and get the full experience, and make sure those families are making the right decisions in terms of how much money they need to spend on those, if they are spending. And so there's a lot that goes into it in terms of development, but sometimes I miss some of my favorite times of coaching in memories are just being on the court as a graduate assistant, as an intern, with the Legends, like just rebounding for hours and hours and hours for guys, and helping them get better. And that's what we're in this for. And that's a big reason why I got into coaching, was to help people and help people get better at something. And skill development is helping people get better. And so I have a lot of interest in that.
Well said, man. I mean, it is probably my favorite time of daily practice within our team, but definitely in the spring, where we kind of make a big shift here from Faith basketball ended 2 months ago. This is all about their improvement season now, where I think we'll, as a small private school, we'll be better if the guys are playing year round. But then there has to be some give and take there a little bit. Okay, if I'm asking them to spend time and resources with a select team, but then also telling them go find a skills trainer as well. Like there's only so many hours in a day. The academics here, it's a really big, I mean, it's a really big piece of it, and they got to have time for that. So I take it kind of upon myself to be their skills trainer. And I always tell them and the parents, like, I'm not the best, obviously, but I'm not bad, but from there, it's like, I think as high school coaches, we know them better than anybody, as players, anybody else, because of the time we get to spend with them. So let's take a little bit more ownership, that extreme ownership, right, of their skill development, which means we've got to be researching. We got to get uncomfortable. We've got to fall in love with that side of the game. Really kind of having light bulb moments with guys like Micah Lancaster and the why behind what he does. And then there's this whole other side to it. Like you and I growing up, team practices were fun, but the most fun was just us with a ball, spending time, trying to get more dynamic, work on different shots and finishes. And then ultimately too, if we're the ones teaching them the skills, we also get to kind of direct it a little bit in a path of this will help us in faith, but also hopefully with their select teams as well.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, a lot of time is spent in empty gyms with a ball and just you or a friend or a teammate. And those are the moments in practice and when you're training that you're helping them go off and do that on their own and explore and be creative. But I agree, high school coaches need to take that ownership, and it's a huge part of your team. You've got to help guys get better, and you're going to see a lot better team if you start to incorporate skills into your practices. If you're not doing that, we do it like the first 20-30 minutes of every practice is skill development. So,
which I think there's probably a lot more coaches that are at situations like mine rather than where you're about to walk into. I mean, I can think of Duncanville, Allen, there's just a select few up there at that top where, like you said, you have elite players. These guys have trainers. They are doing all this stuff. So there's probably a different approach, to working with them as opposed to where you were in some cases where I am now in a lot of coaches, which is basketball for a lot of these guys is fourth or fifth on the list.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. It's just the truth. And to try to make them, force them into, there's that they like it, they love it, they live it. I got tons of dudes in like. So if I have them in like, and I want them to find enjoyment and be a part of the program and to give effort, man, what part of the game will I get the most buy-in from? It's that skill development side.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, at my first year at Grapevine, I think we had a lot of guys that liked it, and it was different for me, honestly, coming from UNT and working with pros, and then coming to Grapevine. And it was also COVID too.
How did you handle that? How did you handle the change? Because as a younger coach, I struggled with the players that didn't want to play in college. There was a disconnect. I actually couldn't even understand why they were really doing this, because they didn't have that motivation. How did you deal with that?
Yeah, no, that ain't easy. I definitely struggled with it too as a 24, 25 when I got here, and it was like, wait, what do you like? This is all you do? Like, you don't do anything outside of here? It definitely was an internal struggle that I had to look inwardly. I became a much better teacher of the game coming to high school my first year. I actually got beat by 50 by Coach Markley's team over at South Lake. My first game
That's
coaching
humbling.
with the freshman basketball team. I had, it was like football wasn't over yet, and so I'm like, hey, Blakeley, go coach the freshman team. Like, okay, and so I went and did that and got smacked by 50, and I was like, all right, sweet, high school basketball, here we go. And so, yeah, no, it was humbling, but it was also, I wanted to grow it too. It's like it's kind of like faith, like when you have a strong faith, you want to share it with people, right? You want to share it with people and tell people what amazing things God's doing in your life. If you love basketball and you really loved your experience playing at a high level and you do it for a living, like you want to get kids excited about that. And so that was my intention going in. Was like, all right, I got these dudes that it's kind of been a hobby and maybe they've never been told they're good, or maybe they've never been told that they could play to get in the next level, or that it's even an option that's crossed their mind. And so my mentality was like, I'm just going to love on these kids and help them get better and, see what happens. And so we had a lot of guys that started to have interest in playing in college. And I think now, leaving Grapevine was definitely not easy because we got a lot of kids there now that really love basketball and really want to play at the next level and are doing that and going to do that. And so, but like I said, the kids that didn't and the kids that didn't want to go on to play college, I did have that initial disconnect.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe I'm speaking too highly on myself. Maybe the dudes would be like, no, he didn't do that. I felt like I was still able to build those relationships with those kids. I love those kids. And, I still talk to a lot of them. I mean, my first senior class is all graduated. We're in a group message and, they're all texting me the other day after I made the move. And so it's just, those are relationships that I really treasure and really value. And I can't wait to watch those guys go get married and have their own kids and come back to games and things of that nature.
Man, that's awesome. And it's really cool that you were able to figure that out, so quick, because I think there is a point where we really we need to appreciate, obviously, the gym rats. That's easy. The ones that have that same dream, the same passion for the game that we did. Yeah, those are just fun to be around for sure. But then learning to appreciate those guys that work hard at practice, give their very, very best. But when the second that it's over, they've got tons of other things that they can't wait to do. And when their senior year's done, they can already picture taking that jersey off and being done with, like, there is nothing wrong with that. And starting to appreciate them for that. And then I also thought, I loved your point about, like, what's most enjoyable for me is watching these guys connect dots, not them becoming a better screener or blocking out well. That's important, but most enjoyable is their shot was here, and man, it's starting to look a lot more efficient now and is a lot quicker. They're literally hitting the target more, and then with their footwork and with their ball handling, they're just a little bit lower and more, and seeing that joy on their face for connecting those dots, because what we are building here is life habits. Not just skill for basketball. When you can figure out how to drop and pocket and push out and freeze time, and it takes all of those steps to get to there, and the click moment happens, that's how it's going to be in all of your relationships. And I love your comparison to your faith, because that's how it works there too.
Absolutely. That's how life goes. Prepare for life. That's the bigger picture here. And that's why I love this level. That's why I love high school. And because you're preparing them for life.
Is that where you want to stay? Because you start out in the G League. You start out. I mean, this is getting real here. What are aspirations?
Man, I anytime I get that question, I say that I've always wanted to experience the game at a number of levels and a number of different perspectives. That may mean that
great political answer. No, it's good.
No, I mean, it's the truth. I do. My grandfather coached in the ABA. He coached high school. He coached junior college. He coached, Division I college. Like and he was an agent. So like he experienced it in a number of different ways. And I've got a lot of friends in the industry. I mean, it's a huge industry. There's play-by-play commentators and there's people that go on TV. It's just, there's a lot of different jobs that are in this sport, a ball, it's like a round ball. There's a lot of jobs created because of a round ball. And I've just always wanted to experience it at a number of different levels and help people everywhere I am. If I could run free clinics somewhere in a foreign country for a living, I would do it for free.
Free
For free.
clinics for a living. Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
disconnect, but I love that perspective that you have. And I had the honor. My high school coach Tommy Thomas was able to connect me with Del Harris, but he's very similar mindset of loved coaching. Started out as a junior high coach, JV, varsity, JUCO. Like he went all throughout those levels, and so I don't know. I just I felt a similarity with you. I mean, if you love coaching and yeah, you're just being faithful where you are, it's amazing the doors and the relationships and the connections you can make. Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Shoot 360. The future of basketball has arrived in Dallas-Fort Worth. Shoot 360 combines the latest sports technology with the fundamentals of basketball skill development. The result is a one-of-a-kind video game-like basketball program designed to improve your shooting, dribbling, and passing. Visit shoot360dfw.com to learn more and register for your free 1-hour workout evaluation. Shoot 360, the future of basketball is here. You mentioned social media a little bit, that you seemed to be pretty active with that at Grapevine. I think Alan does an incredible job with it as well. How do you use that to enhance your program?
Gosh, yeah, man, this is something that I feel pretty strongly about too. There's a lot to it, but I've learned a lot over the last few years running the Grapevine account. It's actually the funniest thing about me leaving Grapevine. I didn't get a lot of initial like, oh, I'm so sad that you're gonna go. It was like, who's gonna run this social media?
We find out really what they care about there.
I was like, wow, like, who's gonna play the music at the practice? I'm like, okay, gonna miss you too. But no, I had a lot of people really. I mean, seriously, a lot of people were like, wow, who's gonna run the Twitter and Instagram? And I ran it these last 2 years and was able to build a good platform for Grapevine basketball. I don't know how many they're up to, maybe 2,500 or something followers on
that's big time.
Twitter, which, it ain't all about followers, but like having that platform and having those amount of people, what a lot of people don't understand about social media is that you can engage people. You engage with people. It's about building relationships. It's about building a brand. It's about, for us, we were able to raise a lot of money through sponsorships as well using our platform. We had the 7th most. I did a deep dive on Twitter and Instagram followers from team accounts in all of high school, private school, public schools, 5A, 6A, and Grapevine was like 6th overall in the state behind, Duncanville, Lake Highlands. And
how did you figure that out?
I just looked at every single Twitter account and charted the follow. I told you I like counting things, so I charted it, and
that's extreme, my friend. That's extreme.
I know, it was. It was like at 2 a.m. on a random night. Sometimes I can't go to sleep because I'm thinking about weird things like that. But I did it, and Grapevine had a really big platform, and from where we started 3 years ago, and we were able to use it in a lot of different ways. Big influences for me were Brittany Graham, actually, who runs the Duncanville account. I heard her speak at an event in Duncanville about building your personal brand. And, I went to school and got a business degree and took a lot of marketing classes. And so, and I took sports marketing classes as well. And so I was able to just kind of use those experiences and those influences. Luke Della was the sports information director, and he ran the social media at UNT. And he was my roommate a lot on the road when we were playing games. And so I would every now and then, hey Luke, what are you tweeting, man? Like, what are you building over there? And so graphics, using, again, if any high school coaches are listening, Canva is a really good tool. CANVA is just, for those that have zero experience making any type of graphics or content that you can push and to social media. Like, it's really easy to use. And so I kind of got using that, and I just started doing some things on social media that a lot of high schools weren't doing outside of really probably Duncanville and maybe a few others. And that is creating content that is professional, that looks like a college level or pro level account, and using it to do all kinds of things, promote your players, so that college coaches and scouts can see that through video, and then engaging with just the community. I mean, through sponsorships. Like I said, like we had a game day. Lenny's Subs was our game day sponsorship that we had. That is a locally owned business, sandwich restaurant, one of my favorites. And so
Nice.
we were able to create a partnership with them where they were sponsoring us. And a lot of that was through social media because we were, blasting their name out all the time. And I think we'd all be kidding ourselves if we're not getting prepared for NIL in Texas, because there are 23, 24 states, I think, at this point in high school that are allowing that. And so I think that's another huge part of it, right? Is like, how are we helping these kids? And again, at Allen, right, it's different everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Maybe some coaches have one player that's a college level player, or maybe you have no one on your team that is like looking to do this, but for I am right now, and at Allen, like those guys, we need to start helping those guys, maybe build their brand up and try to help them get seen and get the exposure that they need. And so we use it in a variety of ways. Like I said, there's people like Craig Smith and Paul Miranda and Kellen Buffington that are media members in Dallas that do an unreal job of just providing, local and national exposure for kids and families, using their platforms. And so getting to know people through social media as well, but using it in that team account aspect. I told Coach Sip this yesterday, because we were literally talking about strategy with Allen. I'm like, how do we position ourselves? Like, what is the Allen brand? Like, we're the biggest school in Texas. We should be, like, this is Allen. Like, we need to really build that image and make sure people know like who we are and what we're about. A lot of teams have, core values and things of that nature that they may want people to know about. Like, hey, here's who we are. Here's what we're about. If you're in middle school and you go to Allen, Curtis Middle School, that feeds into Allen, and you follow us, like when you get here, here's what we're about. Like you can see what we're doing on a daily basis. Yep. You can see a different side of your players and coaches by pushing content that is more personal. Hey, get to know this player, get to know Coach Sip. Like here's what it's like off the court, things like that. And so I follow a lot of college and NBA accounts and make sure that I'm trying to keep up with what they're doing, but it's a lot of work, I will say.
That's my point, because that's the for Grapevine Face account, I'm the only one who puts stuff out. I make all the graphics. I do that, and in season, like that's a lot. And so for a coach, let's just say a coach starting out, I love the Canva. I use Photoshop, but that takes a lot of time, to figure out. Like I've literally watched online tutorials and things, and our girls coach was great at it, so I steal a lot of PSDs off of her and stuff. But what would you say? Like, I don't know about you, I had kind of daily themes of this. I'm gonna do this one today, this one tomorrow, like, and of different players. What are some of the themes, or like you would say, coaches, you need to start just doing this, kind of a weekly breakdown?
Yeah. Oh man. I get, like, are you talking about like what I
like in season? You said get to know your player, like you do that.
Oh, in season,
like what are some other things?
Yeah, I mean, I use Duncanville as an example because they were the first that I saw in high school do this. Yeah. But they were doing a lot of, they were doing a lot of things that were just like kind of funny and random and weird, like Halloween time. What's your favorite Halloween candy? And again, if you have the staff to do that and you have the people that can spend the time to create that kind of content, it's fun. It's awesome. It keeps people engaged. It keeps kids engaged. And ultimately, that's another big piece of this is, for me, I have a heart for the student body, and I want them to enjoy coming to a game. I mean, a lot of this I get from my grandfather, who, like I said, he coached in the ABA and he was an entertainer. Ultimately, I used to call him an entertainer and not a coach, but he was both. And he liked to entertain people. He liked people to enjoy themselves at a game. And I think using social media, you can create, excitement, right, about your program in a lot of different ways. And you can get people to come to games. And we built our student section to be probably one of the top student sections in the area at Grapevine. And a lot of that was through just genuine interacting with students, but a lot of it was also through social media and getting kids engaged.
I want to zero in on that. Okay, what were some specific things you did to build your student section at Grapevine?
Yeah, I would say a couple of things. One, give them a name. Give the student section a name. Give it a there's a lot of different things you can do. We call it Stampedeville, population 500, and so Stampedeville, we're the Mustangs, and so Stampede is like the name of a city, and so we gave them that sense of like this is who we are. Give them themes as well. You can talk to your student section leaders or your spirit leaders if you have them on campus, or your cheer team, or whoever kind of takes ownership of it. And what's amazing is actually when I was at ACU my last year, so I graduated early, a semester early, and I didn't play my last year. And my two roommates started the student section at ACU. We had no students showed up to games my freshman and sophomore year really, and so we started one, and we used social media, and we built that like into a big consistent student section. And I think a lot of it is there's little things you can do. Like one thing I did a lot that gained some excitement was on game days, or sometimes the day before games, I bring out this little mini hoop at lunches, and I would have kids come shoot a shot, and if they can make it after 3 tries, they get a Grapevine basketball t-shirt, and I'd tell them come to the game. And so it's little marketing things like that that can help. And I told them, hey, sit in the student section. We're gonna have canes for you if you're first 50 people or whatever it may be. It's almost like the movie Semi-Pro.
I was like, your grandfather was Jackie Moon. Like I thought about that before.
Yes. And so it's marketing. It's wanting to make sure that.
Did you ever bring a bear into the?
Man, I should have brought like a horse, a Mustang.
What was the bear's name? I'm thinking about it right now. Man. Precious, or I don't know.
Man, I can't even think of it. But those are the kinds of things, and it all goes hand in hand. And again, we filmed that, we put it on social media. It's like, hey, come get a shirt at lunch today, and then that's kind of the way you build excitement. And using those sponsorships as well, we had the Soft Pizza fan of the game this year, right? Soft Pizza is in Grapevine. It's one of my favorite pizza places, and I know the owner there, and he's a great friend, and he gave us a sponsorship to give out like a $50 gift card after games to the craziest student section member, right? And so a lot of those different things that I didn't see being done in high school much, at least in this area, that has nothing to do with the game, right? Or the results of the game, right? But the players know that getting excitement and getting people in the gym is part of it. And you want people to come watch, and you want people to have fun and bring their kids. And man, I will say that working for the Legends was a big part of this too, because if you've ever been to a Texas Legends game in the G League, it's a carnival. You have bounce houses on the court, like on the side, and you got all kinds of kids running around doing stuff. And so that was kind of my thinking behind all of it, was like, I just want people to enjoy themselves at our games. I want to win also, which is enjoyable to watch, but I want to create that experience. I don't know, I can't take credit for this because I steal from a lot of people, but we turned the lights off this year during starting lineups, and got everyone to get their flashlights out on the phone, and that kind of caught some momentum at a couple other schools, not named the rivalry down the street that may or may not have copied us, but other schools started doing it too, and it was cool. The players liked it, the students liked it, and so a lot of things that go into it. Having a photographer is really important too.
Yes, yeah, that's huge. I mean, just having we were fortunate enough to have a mom of one of our players that was really good at that, but that is like getting the media, just literally the photos, that to be able to do stuff with those is huge. You know what I was thinking is with all of this, like, you can't take yourself too seriously. And you can't take like winning is important, but then also like it's an entertainment game. It's an entertaining game, and we want it to be fun. But I think the traditional coach in me, which our style isn't very traditional, but there is still that guy inside of me that's like, I want this to be serious. Like I want people to know when they come in that, like, listen, we're not playing around here. We're in the business of, but can you find that line between that guy and then also the bouncy house and doing those things? Because I think I do think if there's one area at Faith that I've kind of over the years backed away from more and more is the overall experience at games. And then, maybe it's because, and I don't know, maybe some other coaches feel this way too, where it's just me. Like, I'm the only full-time guy. My part-time coaches, I'm thankful for them. They come from their real jobs to give up their time to coach after school for very little. So I don't ask a lot of them. So it's like, okay, with the amount of time that I do have, how much can I put? But I don't think it would take a lot. And ultimately, a better environment leads to my players having more fun, which ultimately I think leads to them caring more, giving more buy-in. But I feel that guy in me that's like, don't worry about that crap. Like, literally, let's just focus on winning.
It is hard. It's not easy. I'm actually the same way. I feel like you can go down that road too much, and it's like, all right, wait, we gotta focus on winning. We gotta focus on the scout or whatever it is. But trying to balance it, is the best way to put it. And as coaches, we wear a lot of different hats, and you got to be a lot of different personalities at different times. And like in an ideal world, if you had a much bigger staff and in college, you literally have people that are in marketing, in athletics, that do that kind of stuff for you. So, and create that excitement. But in high school, it's challenging. It's challenging. And so you want to make it fun, but you want to win too. And so you gotta figure out and pick. It's not the most important thing, but to me, it was something that I cared about this last year, was building that excitement and wanting people to come to games. Because at Grapevine, specifically where I was, it was not known as a basketball school. It was not known as a basketball school at all. And they had success in a lot of other sports. Like, they were winning state championships. If you don't, most people on here maybe don't know about Grapevine. Like, they do that Lone Star Cup deal every year where it's like best overall sports program, sports and other UIL events, so academic events. Grapevine's like always top 5, top 2 or 3.
Wow.
And they're just, they're good. Cross country's won 3 state championships in a row. Like, they're really, really good programs. And so I wanted to build that excitement. I wanted, people to enjoy coming to basketball games in Grapevine.
See, I
There's
think
a lot of good basketball.
Yeah, I think you've kind of really hit on something that, like, if I was to be at a place where I'm literally hiring full-time assistants, I think obviously basketball knowledge and experience. And man, I was just talking with a guy, Greg Burge, that is really like, he's a really great follow. He lives up in Minneapolis, and that was I just met him on Twitter, but he does a lot of culture stuff. But one of his big words was with itness. With itness, you want to, as a coach, as a person, you want to have a high level of with itness, and so I'd obviously look for that as an assistant. But I got to imagine that a skill of utilizing social media, marketing, and branding, to me, if I'm a younger assistant coach that's really, I want to get my next job, or I want to be at Allen High School I got to imagine that's big, because it's something that I would look for as an assistant, that yes, you're going to help me with basketball, but like, I think these bigger high schools now, just like whatever college is doing, bigger high schools are going to start doing, and these social media coordinators building this awareness and fun, that's coming, if not already here.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Absolutely. It's going to trickle down. Everything trickles down. NBA to college, college to high school.
The Jamodi podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products.
Shot clock, speaking of, hopefully
let's flow right into that. Let's flow right into a rule change that you want.
Sure. Yeah. Shot clock's the easy one there, right?
Yep.
I don't think I need to talk about it too much. It's probably been talked about enough. I'm really surprised, honestly, at this point, that it hasn't. I know there's a lot that goes into it with the financial aspect of it, but I'm hopeful. Some others, though, that I'll hit on that I think would be worth talking about. One is interesting that I just thought of the other day. and that would be, and I'll probably get a lot of pushback from this, and I'm okay with that. I like getting pushback. UIL playoffs, proper seeding, which would mean using Max Prep's algorithm or a net rating of some sort to help determine seeding in each region.
More like the 64, more like the NCAA tournament, rather than district and region and all those things.
I know that it would, again, I get a lot of pushback from this. Travel costs may slightly increase for round one if you're in region one with Amarillo and now you're playing on round one instead of round three. But I think ultimately you're going to have to play those teams anyway in round 2 or 3. So I don't think it would change up a lot. I just think that if you get in as a 1 seed in your district and you're playing, I won't name names, but if you're playing a team that's really, really good and top 5 in the state in the first round or whatever, and you there's a lot of bi-district matchups, I guess I'll just say, that probably shouldn't happen in the first round or second round, based on the way things are, not just in region 1. I'm talking about all regions. I feel like you could probably rank those teams nowadays. We have enough information on teams to probably create a 1 to 32 in each region, or kind of like you said, a 1 to 16. And then I think it would create a more true, just better matchups and better true champion out of each region to get to state. But that would just be a proposal. I haven't put anything down on the slideshow or anything like that. But I would definitely look into that because I think it would help give you the best tournament possible.
Well, like you said, we could use Max Preps, but also we could utilize TABC. TABC does a ranking system every year.
So does one.
Yeah.
I don't see why not.
Coach, I like that.
I think it'd be great. And then I think, and this is funny because you're talking about rule changes, and I keep referring back to my grandfather who, for whatever reason, just keeps popping in my head. Probably because I was going through my things at Grapevine yesterday, and his pictures on my wall. And so he's which is going to come. I've watched a lot or listened to this podcast a lot, and I know you're going to ask me about the Godfather of Star Wars already. So my grandfather was the Godfather, and so the reason I'm bringing him up with rule changes is because when he was coaching at UNT and in the ABA, so he went through a few big rule changes, right? The game of basketball has only had it's had a lot of big rule changes, and the 3 that he experienced were a shot clock being incorporated for the first time at the college level, and then the 3-point line being introduced, which was a pretty big deal. We don't need to go off on the analytics train with the 3-point line and how that revolutionized the game, but that was a big one. And Steph Curry is my favorite player still is, and then no dunking. He experienced the no dunking rule as a coach, which outlawed dunking, which he was super against all 3 of those. He was very for a shot clock. He was very for the 3-point line. He was very for dunking, because his team scored a ton. I mean, they led the country in scoring, over 100 a game, and he liked to play really fast, kind of like you. And so, but the change that I would be interested in is that playoff one. And then I've loved that the TABC showcases allowed coaches to coach. In the summer, that's a big one also. And then, not really a rule change necessarily, but maybe just a random topic that I talk about a lot, which is just referee treatment. And I feel like, I got some great friends that are referees, and I'm just hoping that we can maybe come up with some better ways as a basketball community to treat them with a little bit more respect. I say that as a coach because I've gotten my fair share I almost got thrown out of a freshman game 2 years ago. So
proud moment right there for sure.
Yeah, I almost got ejected. So I got to be taking my own advice. But, ultimately I have really good relationships, I feel like, with most referees. And I think that's a huge, issue right now in basketball. And
no doubt. We're close to not having the biggest or the most important key to us being able to do this. We're very close to not having them. It is. And I do my very, very best to really, I think there's that old quote that's kind of cliche, but great great coaches coach their teams, bad coaches worry about the refs or something like that, or like I do my very, very best to be more focused on my players. Obviously, like you kind of mentioned, there's those moments that kind of just make you cringe. Looking back over, you watch film, you're like, golly, like who is that? Like that's a different person. But from a fan standpoint, being in select season right now, sitting in the stands with parents, like eye-opening experience right there. And man, just a great reminder, like more is caught than taught. Like the better that we treat our officials, can't control everything our parents and our players, yes, but our parents do. But man, maybe they'll see, well, golly, like our coach doesn't really yell at them. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe.
Yeah. No, I think it's probably something you need to talk to with parents, like the beginning of every year at your meeting, and just like, how are we going to project to your sons, like how we treat people? And even if it's a super hostile, competitive environment and you want to win, everybody wants to win, but ultimately you've got to have the respect level for people that are doing it. And I've been a referee myself, so I kind of have that perspective. When I was in college, I refereed a lot of games and heard it from the other end, so I get it. And I had a cousin that was a NFL referee too, so I know it's tough. Like it's not easy profession, and so I think we can all do better for sure. And last little side story, but my grandfather used to pull out one of those not blind, but the eye charts when you go to the eye doctor and you got to cover an eye and it's got like an A and a little B, and he used to pull those out at games and walk out on the floor with one of those.
No way! He is Jackie Boone. I'm telling you, like really that movie was made. The Flint Tropics was made after your grandfather. Hey, I do want to get to the speed round. These are going to be quick questions. I feel like I know you already, but after this we'll know even better. And I just, so full transparency, I have taken out, because right now I'm recording this will be part of season 4. I have taken out the Godfather Star Wars question, but for you, I'm going to put it back in. So first one, favorite ice cream flavor?
Coffee chocolate chip.
That's
and
good.
Coconut's pretty good.
You lost me with coconut, but greatest shooter of all time?
Wardell Stephen Curry. Yeah.
Texting or talking?
Call me.
Okay.
I will text a lot, but call.
Greatest basketball movie of all time?
Man, this is a tough one. So I've listened to a lot of different people on here, and they're all saying Hoosiers. I love Hoosiers, but I'm actually a Space Jam guy. Space Jam is what I fell in love with as a kid, so I've watched it 100 million times.
1 or 2?
Uno, number 2. You lost me on that one. You lost me on that one.
It really makes me appreciate the level of acting that Michael Jordan brought. He was compared to LeBron. It's just like, what does your look mean right now? Like, I just don't know. I'm very uncomfortable. That's what I felt, but
couldn't do it.
No,
I made it 30 minutes in that one.
Yep. Favorite holiday?
Right now, I like I would say Thanksgiving and 4th of July. Thanksgiving is unbelievable. It's time with family and just being grateful for life. And then 4th of July is my daughter was born on the 5th last year, and so we're gonna have some fun, just celebrating and being outside. And
she is always going to have cool birthdays like that. That's a neat one. As somebody who has a birthday close to Christmas, I never really appreciated that because they would always combine my birthday and Christmas together. Growing up, you're like, come on, like they are separate, but they would combine them. But that's a really cool one to combine with 4th of July. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
You're up 3 on defense with 7 seconds left. Do you foul or no foul?
With this team, I think foul, because if you're experienced enough, I think we can make it work. 7 though is tough. I usually say like, I mean, are they bringing it up full court?
Yeah, full court. Yeah.
Too many questions.
No, you're good.
If they're bringing it up full court, I'm going to foul like right over half court.
Yeah.
Probably most of the time.
You got to trust obviously your ability to block out and rebound, and so but then 2. I've had a lot of coaches talk about the level of play, the lower
It
levels, like the odds of them making the shot pretty small. College NBA, maybe because that's kind of, you're basically at the college level. You might need to honor the ability for shooters to make difficult shots.
No doubt.
What book would you give someone?
Just any book, huh? Oh man. I got all my favorite books over here actually behind me. And one of the ones that I've read lately is actually I just finished it. Relentless by Tim Grover.
Yeah.
That book's awesome. It's just one that I happened to just finish recently, and it's all about Michael Jordan's trainer.
Yep.
And he trained a number of other guys too, but it's fantastic. And so
you'll pretty much know right off the bat whether you're hardcore enough. Like, let's just, you and I, and I'm not trying to make you feel bad because I'm putting myself in the same boat. We didn't have the talent to make it to the level that these like the guys he's trained. Is that fair to say?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, yeah.
But my talent level was Iceland. That's the highest I could go, right? So, but you'll know right off the bat reading that book whether, like, let's just say we did have the talent, whether we would have been tough enough, hardcore enough to do what he expects and what those players do. Because reading that book and his next one, Winning,
like, the mentality that it takes.
I thought I was tough. And then I felt like such a wuss reading that.
I'm right there with you. Yeah. Reading that is like, oh, okay.
Like, you want to have a family? Forget that. You want to have, days off? Like what? Let's see.
If you read that book, take that with a grain of salt.
That's right.
That you're reading about the best that have ever done it.
And do you really want to sacrifice? Like, is it worth it? There's this great article, like, it's called, Do You Still Want to Be Like Mike? Because it talks about that part of his life that he can't switch off. And I have my players every few years, I'll bring that out. And because maybe when I hate to say taking this too serious, but when we're losing perspective, like myself included, that's a great article to bring out. Is he's 50 plus years old, maybe almost 60 now, but he still has that hunger, desire, that competitive drive that he can't quench, and he's searching, and he's actually empty. And
totally. So that's a real thing. That's a real thing. I mean, I know it's supposed to be a speed round, but like that's
you're good.
a huge part of just being a human and understanding that like basketball is not the end all be all. No matter how much you put into this, it will stop bouncing at some point. I'll never forget my high school coach, I believe, was dropped the ball on the first day of school. It's like cliche thing to do, but it's like it stops bouncing. It's like, hey guys, that's going to happen at some point. You're not going to be playing this anymore. What are you going to do after that? How are you going to, you may fill your life with all these joys and things. And at some point you're going to have to, face the fact that these things are material things. These things are not forever. These things are, fleeting, and people will let you down, and you've got to figure out what that driving force is going to be in your life. And so, the consistency of having a spiritual background is really, really helpful and a big part of my life.
Nice. Favorite place to travel?
I went to Kauai, which is an island in Hawaii. This was 2 summers ago, and I would really like to go back. It was super remote, and I love the beach, and I love being out there with nobody. So that was pretty great.
That's awesome. That's my favorite. My wife and I, that's our place. Our goal is to go. We're both teachers, but our goal is to go every summer for the rest of our lives. We're going to go there every summer. But if you do it, obviously having a former family, parent of a player at Faith that owns some hotels out there, that helps. But you plan your travel out far enough. I work a couple camps. It's possible, but that is on earth. That is to me the closest to what I would imagine heaven. We can't imagine that fully, but that's the closest.
Pretty close.
Let's see. 2 more. How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
Right now, just one. And actually, this was a half caffeinated, half decaf. My wife is trying to get me to cut
Coach,
back
what
on
are
my
you
caffeine.
doing? What are
I
you?
know, but hey, no. During the season, it's it gets up there in the numbers. But when the season ends, I actually go cold turkey for a few weeks.
Nice. Good for
I
you.
ain't touching coffee. And it's usually rough at first, and then I'm like, all right, I'm good, and then I get back to it. And so right now I'm back on it, and it feels great, and I love coffee. So it's a big part of my morning routine.
I actually have two more. So I do want to bring Godfather, Star Wars, or neither. What do you got?
Man, I would say neither. Like, honestly, I never got into any of them or
Yeah.
either. Like, I didn't get into Star Wars actually as a kid much. My brothers were super into it, but I
See,
for whatever reason, I didn't.
we're well, I know why. I'll tell you why. So we're 13 years apart, you and I, but that 13 years is huge because 82, I was born, and they had just come out, 5 years or so before. They were still coming out,
Yeah.
the originals, and so growing up, like watching those, the 4, 5, and 6. Like it was so hard not to be hooked on it. And then, because then 1, 2, you were more 1, 2, and 3. They just weren't that good. They weren't that good, And so it's not your fault. Okay, that's all I'll say.
I like The Godfather. It's all about family, negotiation, power struggle, revenge. But yeah,
that's right. Last one in basketball. Who is the GOAT?
Michael Jordan. I've given this a lot of thought. Probably too much thought, and yeah, it's not close for me. So MJ, and I'm not entertaining any other options.
There it is, man. This was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Yeah,
I've had the pleasure of getting to talk to you, like you said, at some gyms around Texas. But man, just super impressed by you. The way that you look at the game, how much you love it. It's always fun meeting anybody that's passionate about something, and it really it just comes off with you. And excited to see your future, obviously with Alan, but then with what you do beyond that. This was an honor, man.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great, and great talking to you. And I look forward to catching up with you soon in the gym.
If anybody wants to learn, because you actually gave a lot, I wrote a lot of things down. Some things that I'm going to, with either on the tech side with stats and analytics, but then also with social media and building a culture, and kind of, if anybody wants or has questions, what's a great way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I'll list my email. It's Christopher, my new email, Christopher.Blakeley, Blakeley. A lot of people leave off that second E, Matt. And it's at, let me make sure I'm getting this right, AllenISD.org. So Christopher.Blakeley at AllenISD.org. That's my new email. Would love to talk hoops anytime with anybody. Or you can shoot me a message on social media.
Love that, man. Appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi Podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.